Okay, we're live.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Cincinnati Park Board to order. It's September the 16th, 9 p.m. We are meeting today. We are very million in Friendship Park. I just like to make for the record, that all commissioners are here in person for this meeting, and that all votes will be taken by voice vote unless requested a roll call be made by one of the commissioners. Our first agenda item is public comments. We do have two people signed up to speak to us today. Because of the two people for specific topics, we're going to have you speak just before those topics on the agenda come up rather than here at the beginning. But I would like to acknowledge and note for the record that the board has received written comments from the public that have been distributed to each of the board commissioners prior to this meeting. And those issues that were brought up to us via correspondence were noise levels at the new children's playground at Hammond Park, suggestions for the boat dock design related to the dog park at Burnt Woods, received moving forward with the boat dock, and then we also received comments about the park's boat renting program that is in place. So those have been distributed will be part of our discussion of those topics come up. Our first action item today would be approval of the August 19th minutes. If you have each had an opportunity to review the minutes, are there any corrections, additions, or those? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval? Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the motion is minutes are unanimously approved. Our first agenda item is the boat dock, and the way that I would like to handle this agenda item is I will first give a brief overview of this project, since it's a long-standing project that goes back several years. Years before a few of us were even on the park board. So I'll give a brief overview of the project. Then we will have public comments. We have one speaker. We will then go to somebody gets the feedback, please. We will then go to the panel that is presenting a report to us. And then I'll open it up to each of the council and board members for discussion and questions. So let me first introduce this report. The boat dock was originally described as a marina. Late in 1990s, late 1990s, the development plan was put together for an overview of the Riverfront. At that point in time, part of that design and plan was to have was titled a marina at Scale Park, right? Park at that point in time. As you all know, since that time, the Riverfront Park has now been named the Scale Riverfront Park, and the overall plan for that park remains the same. In May of 2016, there was a unanimous vote by the park board to approve moving forward with what was then described as a boat dock. And then in early 2016, the park board also approved the filing of a grant request from the federal government for $1.5 million in federal funding for development of a boat dock. We were granted that award, and through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Cincinnati Parks received $1.5 million to go towards the development of a boat. In 2016 to 2017, there were additional funds that were allocated to this project by the city of Cincinnati. There was some money from the Corps of Engineers that went towards this. So there was approximately, as it stands today, there's still approximately $1.3 million of funds that are sitting in the Park Board capital account for development of the boat. In early 2017, the first RFP was issued by the Park Board, and went out to bid for both the capital development of the park and management of the park. This process led to a contract with a construction manager at risk. That contract was entered into. Subsequent to that, there was a change in leadership at Cincinnati Parks. So in late 2018, beginning 2019, there was somewhat of a lull and a brief lull, I'll put it that way, in the development of this project. Then with the change in the Park Directors, our board re-engaged on this project in early 2019. In early 2020, the board received bids for both the construction and the management of the boat dock. And we're having reverberation problems here. So in early 2020, we received as a Park Board proposals for the construction of the boat dock and also for the management of the boat dock. At that point, in early 2020, the Park Board did its job. The Park Board reviewed those contracts, we discussed them, we looked at the merits of those contracts, and the board rejected both of those proposals based on the cost that was being presented, and also the management agreement that was proposed to us was for a one-year duration. The Park Board rejected both of those proposals. Then in late 2020, the board received a new proposal from a bidder, and that proposal addressed some of the concerns that we had in the proposals that were rejected earlier in the year. It was a positive answer to the cost that we had raised, and the proposal included a long-term management agreement for the boat dock. Because they met the concerns that the Park Board had, the Park Board unanimously approved that contract in November, that award in November of 2020. Park Board then directed the Park Director to work with city procurement and the city law department to effect a contract to enter into an agreement with the proposal of the bidder that we had the proposal with. In response to the concerns raised in the public following that action by the Park Board, Park Board determined that we would go out to bid for that boat dock again. The Park Board requested of city procurement that we go through a RFP process, which is a request for qualification. The city's procurement department directed us that what we would do would be an RFP. So an RFP was let, and the RFP went out in May of 2020. Proposals under that request for proposal were opened in June of 2021. So where are we today? Since that time, the Board of Park Commissioners has requested to see copies of the proposals that were presented under this proposal process. We have been instructed by, or have been told by the city manager's office that it would be against the law for the Park Board to receive copies of those proposals. So we have not been given, and we have not had the opportunity to review or digest or discuss the proposals themselves that have been presented under this RFP process. Where we are today, we have in front of us a report by a 3-member panel chosen and established by the city manager. What we have in front of us today is a recommended bidder, the proposal that is being recommended to us as the park board to accept and to enter into contract with the selected bidder. We have been told that the park board did not see the proposals themselves until a contract is entered into with the bidder. So what we will have today is a presentation by the 3-person panel of their recommendation for the best, most appropriate bid for the development of the park. So that's what we are today. Having that background, what we'll do, as I said, we'll first have public comments, then we will look to the 3-person panel that is with us in person as well as on Zoom today, and then we'll open up to the other issues. So we have one speaker requested, Brendan Sullivan. So Brendan, if you want to go to the podium, we will only allow a 2-minute comment. So you have 2 minutes to present. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you very much for taking the time to visit us today. My name is Brendan Sullivan. I am a real estate developer. We are currently involved in the development of Manhattan development. We want to have an existing developer. He did not have the rights to certain pieces of that site, so in our purchase of it, we ended up buying a business called Quincy Riverfront, which you can see from where we stand today. So in order to do that, we partnered with an individual by the name of Don Jones. Don Jones is the owner of Riverfront. So Don has just exceptional qualifications for being run and operate a whole business. And we are working on this. We are with the state developers, and we are operating not only his pieces, but we gave you a proposal back in November to approve unanimously. Since then, somebody objected to it, as we know, that person got objected. Did not even put a proposal forward. So we feel like, based on how we started this, we have the unique qualifications to do a project like this and the experience. Not only as real estate developers, but owners of marinas, and we operate an existing business now. When we gave our proposal to the city, we had to put all our qualifications in the document as it was you would have said. It was a scoring process that was subjective. We go down the process of the board and making recommendations to you. And we look at some of the scoring, and we feel that we some of the items that are on the 3 specific items are not being correctly scored on our side. All we wanted to do is give an opportunity to present to you what it is that we're proposing here and why these deficiencies that show up on our scoring, why those deficiencies aren't right, certain things like inclusion and so on and so forth. We got a 0 score. We brought a contractor here. We're completely willing to comply with all the things on the proposal, and we think that if those items that we've spoken about, the committee, the people that are making their recommendation, we can maybe fulfill that they looked at as though we were deficient on. So all we want to do is have a fair shake at this. We would like to represent and show you why we think in those 3 areas that we were underscored on, what our qualifications are, and why we feel we're the best for this proposal. And right now, our recommendation is given without really our ability to reply. So my purpose here is just to say, we want to share with you what we feel our qualifications are on an equal platform with whomever our other bidders.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate your offer. We have been instructed that we cannot have you present to us as a park board. So I appreciate your willingness to do so. But all I can say to you is we are not at liberty, according to direction we have received from the city, for you to present to us.
Is there a way that we can have additional comment or supply additional information to the members that did make the recommendation? Because we feel that there are things that they are reading in a written report that aren't exactly right.
Thank you. We will take your comments and your request, and we will work with the city on that.
That's all we ask for. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move into the report that we have in front of us, a 3-page report from the evaluation committee. This is composed of a committee of 3 appointed by the city manager, which includes Bobby Hageman, who is the chief procurement officer for the city, Kelly Carr, who is the assistant to the city manager, and Jenny Mobley, who is the deputy director of parks. So with that, I'll just turn it over to the 3-person committee, how you would like to present.
Great, thank you for all that background. As you hear, we are going to present the award recommendation for the design services, construction management, and operation of the Cincinnati Riverfront Boat Dock RFP that was released in May. The objective of this RFP was to determine the most advantageous proposal to the city for the boat dock along the riverfront. We will describe the process, the scoring criteria, highlight how the proposals were rated within the criteria, and the award recommendation. There were 2 respondents, Queen City Riverboats and H. Hafner and Sons. To begin, Kelly will explain the process and how we arrived to where we are today. Kelly?
Good morning. I will caution, it is difficult to hear everyone there, so bear with me. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you to Mr. Jim Getz, president of the Park Board, for providing that history. I will kind of take it from the solicitation. So on May 20th, 2021, Cincinnati Park solicited a request for proposal, RFP, for design services, construction management, and operation management of Cincinnati Riverfront boat dock. So as Jenny just indicated, offerers were evaluated on expertise, proposal responsiveness to need, design construction experience, maintenance operation experience, financial and pricing proposal, and economic inclusion. A subcontracting goal of 2% for minority business enterprise and 4% for women-owned business enterprise was required. On June 24th, 2 proposals were received, Queen City Riverboats and H. Hafner and Sons Incorporated. These proposals were deemed non-responsive by our Department of Economic Inclusion for not meeting those mandatory inclusion goals. But since both respondents were otherwise qualified, and a solicitation of another RFP would have derailed deadlines needed to begin the design and construction of services before the 2022 season, both respondents were asked to present their best and final offers to the city. Those best and final offers were evaluated by myself, Chief of Staff, the City Manager and Parks Liaison, Deputy Director of Parks, Jenny Mobley, and Procurement Director, Bobby Hageman, as Jenny had just indicated. The evaluation committee measured those respondents' best and final offers in line with the scoring RFP criteria. So I will cover the criteria if I'm okay to switch over to the first 2 categories, the evaluation of qualifications and responsiveness to need, while Parks Deputy Director Jenny will cover the maintenance, operation, design, construction, and financial proposal, and Director Hageman will cover economic inclusion. So under expertise, experience, time in the field for each project component, this was weighted at 35 points. Both respondents provided the committee with company information on their personnel experience or qualifications that were pertinent to marina operations and to design and construction. Queen City Riverboats did rate higher at 31.76 in experience due to time in the field and their current fleet of touring vessels. However, Hoffner and Sons was still competitive in this category as they were strong in their design and construction qualifications, along with demonstrating their personnel had nautical experience. So they received a score of 23.33. Our next category, the proposal responsiveness, was weighted at 20 points. So within the RFP, Cincinnati Parks indicated that they want offerers to provide the primary function of docking for transit mooring of private boats. So with an 80-some linear feet for city emergency vessels. Proposals could also include the ability to accommodate the operation for commercial facilities like a restaurant, bar, cafe. So each proposal that we received was responsive to those needs. Queen City Riverboats provided the committee with two options for consideration. One within the park's budget of $1.7 million that included the relocation, renovation, and operation of a headboat, dock, and restaurant just east of the suspension bridge, but west of the Cincinnati paddle wheel along Smale Riverfront's public beach. The second option for $2.4 million was for acquisition, relocation, and a renovation of a headboat, hotel, restaurant, and dock. Each option considered a spud bar and cable tie anchoring system and positioned the headboat downriver of the mooring public area. So you have your headboat and then your dock would extend upriver, providing at least 650 linear feet of mooring space. Hoffner and Sons proposed a design and construction of a headboat, restaurant, and dock at 1.7 cost not to exceed the city, just south of the steps of the paddle wheel. So you know how the steps come down? It would be right there, and it would be cable tied to the public landing with a spud bar anchoring system. That option positioned the headboat upriver with the dock mooring area going downriver with at least 600 linear feet of public mooring. So this category was a bit of a challenge as each respondent did demonstrate responsiveness to need. Queen City Riverboats did slightly higher in their scoring at 16.7 compared to Hoffner's 12.6 due to their proposal's format. It was a more polished proposal. However, Hoffner presented very strongly with a restaurant partner in attendance when they met with the committee. Again, each respondent did demonstrate their responsiveness to the need, and each included space for city emergency vessels, a bar and restaurant, a dump station for boater storage, restroom and showers, and options for dock expansion. So those are the two categories I'm covering. I will turn it over to Deputy Director Jenny Mobley, who will cover the next three categories: design, construction experience, maintenance and operation, and financial pricing proposals. Thank you.
So first, I will start with the maintenance and operation. Both were excellent, rated excellent for having experience in operating successful businesses. They do both have nautical experience, and both were offering a concession bar or restaurant operation. Queen City Riverboats would operate a transient service at $2 per linear foot, a concession bar / restaurant service, and their river taxi operation off of the dock. Hoffner and Sons would offer 3-day moorage, overnight moorage, and long-term moorage, full-service restaurant services. Queen City received a slightly higher rating for more defined nautical services at a 10 for Queen City and 9.33 for Hoffner. Under design and construction, the RFP asked for a minimum of 20 slips at 26 linear feet, which equals 520 linear feet, basically. Sorry, I was struggling with that one. And 80 feet, linear feet for emergency services. Queen City proposed a renovated headboat for 1,300 docking space, 520 feet for transient, 2 spaces for emergency vehicles, linear feet was not specified, and 350 feet for their existing Queen City Riverboat fleet operation. As Kelly stated, it would be located just east of the rolling bridge. The docks would be traveling east. They would look into a possible pump out station. They would have restaurants, electrical pedestals every 25 feet. Their anchorage was explained to be spud bars or cabling systems, but unfortunately at the presentation, they were unable to speak about river level operation limits due to their location choice. or they were not able to speak about anchoring plans for this location. They did provide pictures of outside of the headboat and renderings of the proposed locations and how the headboat and docks would be displayed. Hafner and Sons proposed a revitalized headboat with 1,440 linear feet docking space, 520 feet for transient and free daytime moorage services, 80 linear feet for emergency vehicles or vessels, and 840 feet for long-term moorage throughout the season. Full service restaurant, restrooms, showers, pump out station, and 14 electrical pedestals along the docks. Their anchorage system would consist of spud bars and cabling to the public landing, where they were proposing to locate their docks and headboat near the paddle wheel as Kelly described. Their docks would be traveling west, which would assist in river debris diversion. Provided design layouts for inside and outside the headboat. They provided design layouts for the inside and outside of the headboat and renderings of the proposed locations. They would also require added space on the public landing for a food truck in order to do the restaurant preparation. Under the finances. Both parties requested $1.7 million for their headboat and docking systems. Queen City Riverboat proposed a 5% revenue share for their transient service at $2 per linear foot, projected at $7,200 per year to the city. They also offered a 5% revenue share for their concession bar restaurant service, projected at $25,000 or $25,200 per year. So their total share was projected at $32,400 per year. With a 20-year term, that would bring in $648,000. They did quote in their proposal that they would not do a revenue share on any marketing, sponsorships, or their river taxi service with Queen City Riverboats. Hafner and Sons proposed that they would do a 75% revenue share for their overnight and long-term moorage to the city, projected at $54,000 per year. They would also do an 8% revenue share for their restaurant services, projected at $89,000 per year, totaling $143,000 per year. At a 20-year term, that would bring in $2,860,000. At this time, I'm going to let Bobby cover the economic inclusion.
All right, good morning. This last category, the scoring criteria addresses the respondents' ability to meet the established M and WBE goals set for the solicitation, which were 2% MBE goals and 4% WBE goals. These were applied by the Department of Economic Inclusion in the original RFP and then asked again of the respondents for their best and finals. Upon receipt of the best and final offers, Hafner and Sons submitted and exceeded the established goals. Their inclusion plan included a 3.49% minority business goal and an 8.46% women business goal. Queen City Riverboats best and final offer listed 2 firms. However, neither of those were certified by the city at the time of submission, which is a requirement of the Cincinnati Municipal Code. And therefore, that's why they were scored 0 and Hafner and Sons was scored a 10.
So after thorough review or evaluation by the evaluation committee, we recommend an award to be made to H. Hafner and Sons. While the other respondent also offers a good overall proposal, H. Hafner and Sons Incorporated can provide the services with equal expertise with a higher financial benefit and meeting the established inclusion goals. Based on the proposal and experience, H&H Hafner and Sons offer the most advantageous in support of the boat dock needs of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the three-panel committee for the time and work that they put in. They are city employees. They were given this task by the city manager, and I appreciate the time and energy that they put forward in evaluating this. I just want to point out that my background, I was CFO of a major corporation here in Cincinnati, an international corporation. We have other CEOs on this board of park commissioners. We have people that have a long list of public and volunteer services to this community. The city charter established a park board. I believe that the impetus for doing that was to keep politics out of the parks. From that standpoint, I believe that you look at the Board of Park Commissioners, we were appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council due to our experience and expertise that we can bring to the park board. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make decisions and evaluate the appropriate spending of park board funds and for the ongoing maintenance of city parks. So with that, I would like to ask the panel of three to share with us the criteria, how you came about this scoring process. Was there a unanimous decision on each of these categories? How did each of you evaluate the proposals that were brought forward to you, and how did you come up with the scorings?
So we had the original proposal. We had the presentation that we all attended, and then we were shared, we received the final and best offer. At that time, we reviewed independently all three pieces of that with our notes, final and best offer, as well as the original proposal itself. We had discussions about each piece to make sure that we had an understanding what that criteria was. We independently scored, and then they were grouped together for an average scoring on each category.
And was there a divergence of opinion on any of the three categories?
Review my sheet. There were some differences in each category from different individuals. Yes, to answer your question, yes, there were some differences in some of those categories.
Okay, and I see the scoring difference that you applied based on each of your inputs on the various categories. We have an 8-point difference in overall rating between the two. Can you tell us the significant differences when you look at the key areas that were given the most weighting as importance of the criteria? Expertise and experience. Can you tell us the experience that, and let me make a general statement here. I do not have a basis for evaluating the qualifications or the quality of the proposals submitted by either Queen City or by Hafner. So I have no preconceived opinion as to the qualifications of either of these two firms. With that, the only information I know about doing my own personal research prior to this meeting, which I think is an example of fiduciary responsibility to make decisions. When I looked at the website for Hafner and Sons, I see that they are a premier landscape materials provider and construction and demolition recycling site. I do not see any listings on their services or products that relate to marine, boating, or can you share with us the basis for scoring them with a positive 23.3 score related to qualifications for providing construction of a boat dock and the management of a boat dock?
Sure, I will also ask the other two members of this evaluation committee to chime in after I am finished explaining my portion of it. The expertise and the experience and time in the field for each project component that they proposed, not only nautical services, but whatever their ancillary component they also brought to the table. So although Queen City Riverboats, I would say, has a more nautical experience that was displayed in the proposals. In the presentation, Hafner and Sons did bring their experience with their restaurant, and they explained their experience with their nautical portion and services as well.
Can you share with us what are those experiences from a nautical standpoint? Because we are talking about a boat dock. So I'd just like to hear what experience they brought to you that reflected the score that you gave them.
Sure. In the proposal itself, it did describe that they had experience with Manhattan Harbor and obviously personal boating experience as well. If anyone else would like to join in on any additional for Hafner and Sons. No, they're saying no.
Oh, no, I just was not ready to be
sorry.
on the spot. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate for me to kind of read from a proposal since they are confidential, but
I'm sorry, Kelly, we cannot hear you here.
oh, can you hear me now?
If you speak up a little, I think.
Oh, I just got to talk loudly. I have to enunciate. I said, I don't think I was about to kind of read from the proposal, and I don't think that that's appropriate since they are confidential respondent materials. But in summary, we are provided with resume and personnel credentials that indicated personal experience had been had for a lifetime of some nautical experience. But beyond that, the design and construction was really advantageous. The way in which they had positioned that headboat to be within access walking distance to the steps from the paddle wheel, and then to be cable tied to the public landing in proxy as being both myself and Jenny being a wharf master and having dealt with the river for the amount of time that she and I have, we were very aware of like the benefits to that location and to it being moored there. There was concern relating to the location, Moore Smale Beach, and where they could tie and what potential cost to the city could balloon. Hafner and Sons was able to indicate that costs would not exceed the city after 1.7. And knowing that there could be a lot of unknown factors to how, a headboat, further west could be moored to that landing area was very concerning. So to actually be located where it was, and the fact that Hafner has a headboat that is upriver, and they were able to really speak to that in being a benefit, not creating an eddy, not creating a strainer, to be able to field off that debris. When we questioned them and peppered them questions about the river levels and flood emergency response, they spoke very quickly and to handle those emergency response services. So really in their presentation, they just sort of knocked it out of the park.
So assume then I didn't hear that they had actual experience constructing or managing a boat dock. Is that correct?
No, I don't. They did not show prior builds, but they did, show ample experience of their capabilities of providing the renovation to that headboat and the build out of the type of dock that they want to build, which is more of a state of the art kind of concrete pole dock instead of the relocation of a current dock and gangways. So.
And again, Jenny, can you repeat that, because we cannot hear. We can understand what she's saying, but again, in response to, can you tell us the direct experience? Because what I'm reading here is experience and expertise, time in the field for each project component. Can you tell us what experience the recommended bidder had in developing and managing a boat dock?
Yeah, they have more ample experience in relationship to that design and construction. And we saw there was sufficient evidence for capable management, of the marina. And then in the presentation, they were very responsive to our questions about managing an emergency flood response and the river levels and the handling of the marina itself. I mean, we were confident in their responses during the presentation and with the evidences in the proposals for their background in design and construction.
Thank you. Well, what I'm hearing, and it's not answering my question, what I'm hearing is that you assume based on their proposal to us, that you know that they have the capability of doing this in the future. But I guess a yes or no answer is what I'm looking for. Did the recommended bidder, against the recommended bidder, ever develop the boat dock and manage the boat dock?
Yeah, no, they did not do, I don't see experience of a development of a boat dock. However, what was proposed with their experience in construction and what they were proposing definitely seemed advantageous to the city.
And their experience at Manhattan Harbor, they manage that. No, they construct that. I don't believe so. To answer your question, so no management and operation would not be suited to answer that question as yes. However, they just have experience at the harbor in order to gain their nautical experience and expertise.
Can you tell us a little bit about criteria that you use in scoring the financial and pricing proposal? As a three-member panel, what expertise did you bring? What were the criteria for scoring that category? Was it bottom line when they were proposing or suggesting that would come to the city as a bottom line? Or were there other considerations given with regard to financial pricing?
Some of the considerations for me, obviously, they're both asking for $1.7 million in costs, so that kind of was a bit of a wash, if you will. The criteria, some of it certainly had the bottom line. If we're putting $1.7 million into this project, are we ever going to be able to regain our cost that we are putting forth? That was the criteria for me. So that's why I explained what the 20-year term would be at those costs. In addition, under the finances, Queen City Riverboats, like I said, they were not wanting to share any of their revenue share, which I understand they probably needed for their operation, for their marketing, sponsorships, and the river taxi service. They will be operating a whole other business and operation at our docks, with us providing them $1.7 million to do so. Catherine Sons will be supplying free mortgage for day users to come and enjoy the city. And obviously the full service restaurant, but also the economic advantages that could also bring to the city as well. And then, of course, their bottom line for the 20-year service, they would be paying back their $1.7 million. If anybody else would like to contribute their thoughts for their finances.
No, I think Jenny, you did a great job.
I would ask in those pro formas, were those pro forma numbers presented supported by experience of having run similar operations with your being asked to run?
For Catherine Sons, they did bring their restaurant manager in the presentation itself and did describe his experience with that. Unfortunately, I cannot detail out for you because I do not have my notes exactly how long that experience is, but he did speak about his restaurant experience and his plan to do a full service restaurant like Catherine Sons.
I guess from my perspective, the information that you provided to us today, in addition to the three-page memo with more information regarding restaurants, locations, all of that stuff, can that information be provided to this commission in writing to have the additional information? What we heard today was a presentation that had a lot of information in it, the first time you're hearing any of this. So I would like to ask that all be presented to us in writing.
Okay, I will certainly bring that forward to make sure that we are able to do so.
Thank you. At this point, I don't want to monopolize, so I'm going to open it up to any other commissioners that would like to now. I'll have additional comments. Commissioner Castellini.
Is it on? Okay. I think it's very important for the general public to understand the procurement process. Because the process that we have been faced with presently is not what we had done business by in the past. In the past, the way we did business was to have ideas for projects brought to us. People ready for the projects were able to speak to us and show us what they wanted to do. And we decided whether we were going to do that project or not. Then, after we had voted on it, we decided to go forward with a particular project. It was brought to procurement. This is totally different from anything we have ever been faced with before. And from my point of view, it is impossible to make a decision. First of all, the 3 people on that committee should have been here in person. Trying to understand both of these speakers on Zoom is virtually impossible. So I'm very upset about that in and of itself. Personally speaking, we are asked to spend $1.7 million of money that I'm not sure we have in the coffers, number one. And number 2, there is no consideration done to the way the parks operate and how important our private public partnerships are. I mean, no, enough said.
Any other commissioner?
Thank you, President. And I just want to say thank you for the very comprehensive review of this project and its brought us to this point. I think that's critically important that all of us understand so that we can be on the same page about history and what is before us in terms of moving forward. And thank you, Commissioner Castellini, for outlining the process on which we have typically handled these questions. I am, there you go, the word is conflicted, confused, feel like that is an unfortunate position that we're in today. Given that this project has been out for such a long time, I think it is important for our city. I've always said that. I don't think we sufficiently leverage the fact that we are a river city. So this is an important project to do. And I feel I'm just disappointed that we've not been able to make this happen. So I say all that, but I've got a very specific question about this process. One that it was an unfamiliar process and not consistent with the way I thought we would proceed. The very practical question I have is, help me understand the definitions or the exact categories and criteria and the scoring that's attached to each one of them. Because one of the things that was a bit surprising to me is that the maintenance number was as low as it was. The experience and maintenance are very significant to me. So the experience number was high, that makes sense. But the maintenance number, which is important, because what we are going to do as a whole is rely on this company to maintain this asset for us for a long time. So that's important. So I wanted to understand how you arrived at those numbers. I also wanted to educate on the inclusions. That's always important. And as we get proposals proposals, oftentimes, that's what kicks it back. So the fact that one comes in at 10 and the other at 0, twice around, is just a bit confusing to me. So the main thing is understanding how you define categories and how you define points attached to each one of those.
So I'm going to start out that this was proposed, as an RFQ, where we changed it to an RFP. Multiple staff members did go and discuss what each item should be and how they should be ranked. I wish I could give you a great formula of how we came to those percentages, but we certainly knew that expertise and experience in each component that they were proposing, because we were not only proposing a boat dock, but any ancillary components to this proposal as well. So that was ranked at a 35. Proposed quality and responsiveness to need was put together their proposal and expressed to us what it was they were planning to do for the city and in the next 20-year term. That was proposed at a 20. Maintenance and operation experience was managing complex contracts on multiple projects or multiple contractors on the same project, and with valuable services included in that as well. And that was put at a 10. Design and construction experience was also how they would propose their concepts. How they would propose their concepts, how it would be laid out, how that would fit in along the riverbank itself. And that was proposed at a 10. Financial and pricing proposals, that was set forth who was the most advantageous. I think I spoke to not the bottom line, but also what else they could bring to the boating community as well as the city. And that was at a 15. And then economic inclusion, which was whether they were able to meet those MPE or WEP goals, was set at a 10. So with a lot of discussion with who was on the original evaluation committee, this is how we came up with those scorings and those point values.
A follow-up with that as subjective as the scoring is. It appears with the economic inclusion category, it was perceived as a pass-fail. So it looks like we're giving 0 points to the city, meaning that they absolutely would not have minority or businesses in their proposal. Is that the case that you were saying that they did not have any minority or women-owned businesses participating in this project?
They did not have any city certified, correct me if I'm wrong, but they did not have any city certified MPEs or WPEs in their proposal.
And in the MBEs or WSBEs in their proposal, as we said today, are any of those qualified under the city?
President, yes, this is not Jenny's area of expertise. I would like to ask the Director of Procurement and Purchasing to answer that question for you.
Hi, yes, I think I heard, it's a little muffled, so I had a little trouble hearing the question. I think you asked, were they certified as of today?
Yes.
Yes. No, neither company that was proposed by Queen City Mechanical is certified as of today.
And were they made aware of that?
I'm sorry.
Was Queen City made aware of that those companies?
In the presentation that we had with them before best and final offer, we had a conversation about it. Also, the RFP provides a link for the respondents to verify that the firms that are submitting are indeed certified at the time of submission, which is a requirement. So I think they were well aware that they needed to be certified firms at the time of their best and final offer. They were provided all the information and informational sessions in our best and final presentation, and then also with the link provided in the RFP.
Just for the record, Representative Kinsey is here. I would like to refute that statement. However, I have been advised that if you say anything to us, that you could be disqualified from this process. So I do not want you to say anything at this point, because I don't want that to be used against either of the bidders at this point. But I'll just go on record to say that that is an area that we will discuss further for further understanding, because that category alone, even though it was only 10%, that is a 10-point swing in what ultimately became an 8-point difference between scoring of these two proposals. So it is a significant question. And it looks like that one was pass-fail versus the other categories that were scored on a sliding scale, so to speak. Any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner North. Yeah.
Thank you. Comments, really just to echo some that we've heard, but some additional. Certainly, I understand the need for objectivity in this. We can't make subjective decisions through a procurement process. And I also recognize the need to have separation between the procurement arm and our appropriation arm. I understand. I am very troubled by the significant gap between expertise and experience. We have certainly seen some public-private partnerships pulled off successfully, and we've seen others that have been ill-conceived. And I think the expectation for this body of commissioners to approve something so critically important to our riverfront without even a presentation on what this thing looks like, the head of location, et cetera. We are responsible for overseeing this public asset of significance that represents 10% of our land area. And to expect that we're essentially going to accept a 3-page report with rattled off numbers on how we've evaluated these contracts is a completely unreasonable expectation. Everything that we have approved, we have seen concept plans, have talked about materials, have talked about the way these assets were going to operate and function and provide a resource to the community. And this is nowhere near that level of review and presentation. If this is not executed well, every person in this room, but for the spectators, are to blame. And we all have to work with staff, we're commissioners, and we have to make this right, and it's just not a reasonable expectation. Off my soapbox here. I want a couple of comments about, first of all, the economic inclusion efforts. We have to do that. So it's a disappointment that we would have any proposal made that strikes a score of 0. It's unacceptable, and I echo the importance of achieving a 10 in that category, or at some points. On the financing and pricing proposal, look, I'm in the construction business and we bid projects all the time. And anybody can do anything in a proposal in terms of pricing, because these are performance, these are speculative. No one's run this business before. We don't know who's going to show up and buy a hamburger and how much revenue there is going to be to share, or how much revenue at the end of the day is going to be available to repay this $1.7 million. So as it relates to these financial components, we do have to rely upon the operator's ability to generate those revenues. So again, we go back to experience. How is this operator going to be successful in achieving this pro forma? But also we have to look at an apples to apples comparison on what revenues are going to be generated so that we can establish what that share, what that payment is going to be at the end. And at least the way that it was described, it sounds like we took for face value what was in those proposals to develop what the financial advantage was to the city. And I think it's important, particularly when we're looking at a vendor that has achieved 23 out of 35 for expertise, that we are not inappropriately granting them 9 additional points on financial and pricing proposal. And pardon me for the correction, President, but it is kind of like a 7-point difference, which is very minor. So it's, again, it would be very difficult to expect this with this information, with these scorings to recommend this.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I'm on. So, yeah, I'm kind of a visual guy, you know, and I got no clue, you know, other than what came over CPO a few weeks ago. So, Jenny, did I hear you say that the day warning on one proposals was free? And the other one was $2 a foot or something like that. Which one's bigger?
Which one's bigger? Like
Yeah.
docking wise? Yeah.
And it's bigger, you know. So to Molly's point, you know, we see a tiny fraction of what this whole project could be. We're asked to sign off on this with seeing and hearing very basic information, and God knows what it's going to look like. You know, that's going to be there for a long time. So yeah, along with everybody else, I'm a little uncomfortable signing off on this. I would also ask a question as far as the scoring criteria. Does that change much from project to project? Is typically expertise and experience, time and field for each project component typically 35, and is economic inclusion typically 10, and financial pricing? Or does that vary significantly from project to project?
Let's address that to Bobby.
Yes. The criteria recommended is recommended by the department leading the solicitation. What I'll say is there's usually not a huge swing. I think that's what you're asking, but it's what's important to the department. Sometimes cost is more important than other factors in it. So it does vary solicitation to solicitation. However, it doesn't swing significantly per solicitation.
So this is roughly the same, call it scoring criteria that you guys experience throughout use throughout other city projects. I guess I would just question, you know, I think obviously Molly has raised the issue on the financial pricing, so that I'm not sure how the casino turned out, but I don't think it's quite what they projected originally. So 2 or 3 owners later, I'm not sure what that's been devalued to, but I guess the other question I have as far as the proposal quality, you know, a fancy package, you know, with something inside that's not so nice. To me, that's the equivalent of just the bow and the wrapping paper. You know, what I'm looking for is what's inside the box. I'm not sure where what's inside the box lands on this criteria. Is that I'm not even sure what the finished product, where that lands on one of these 6 or 7 criteria. To me, that's what's important, is getting the end result right. And at this point, I'm a bit in the dark. Signing off is something that we don't really have a sense of. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I guess now that I've gone through all my opposition, I'd like to suggest at some point we turn the discussion to how we can get some of that constructed. And what, if we can address from the commissioners what we will require in order to feel we've got sufficient information to authorize this recommendation.
From my perspective, as I've heard from each of you, to have the details, to have the information in front of us, that is why we've made multiple requests of the city that the proposals be presented to us so that we would have the information that the bidders wanted this group to know to be able to make an informed decision. I would add, Commissioner, that from my perspective, I've been on the park board since 2018, and I know that the day that I showed up, I made a commitment that I would strive for transparency in this park board. I would strive that decisions that we've made obviously would be public decisions based on public discussions by the commission. So I'm asking myself, from a taxpayer standpoint, from a fiduciary standpoint, have we met that goal of transparency? Is the concept of a 3-person panel appointed by the city manager with full access to full proposals and the opportunity to meet outside of a public meeting with the bidders, does that pass the smell test of transparency? Or should it be in the realm of a public park board meeting where those proposals have been made fully public to the park commissioners in advance of our decision making? What is more transparent? I was recently at an event where someone who has been very tied in support of the parks brought to light the last time that parks funding was brought to the public. And that was in 2015 when there was a park levy that was presented to the population. And I think he had it right. I think he said the public so strongly supports parks, strongly loves our parks. But they were afraid that in the proposal that was made as an amendment to the charter, they were reluctant to give to City Hall the reins of these dollars to determine how money would be spent on parks. And I think the city did it right back in 1900 something when the park board was created. That they said, and the charter has been written so that there is an independent board of volunteers who have a fiduciary responsibility to make decisions solely based on what is best for Cincinnati parks and representing the public in the taxpayer dollars, and to donors who don't donate money to parks, that we represent what is best for parks and do that in a public manner rather than behind closed doors. So that's the smell test that I'm applying to the issue of transparency.
President.
Yes, Commissioner.
So I think that we as a board, or I'll speak for myself as a commissioner, still have some learning to do on how the procurement process works, or at least how it's managed. I don't know that we're going to be successful in getting the bids from bidders, because I understand that those are, held in confidence for legal reasons and to protect the interests of bidders. But if I draw a parallel to my experience sitting in council chambers presenting to council members prior to an approval, the developer of any project has the opportunity to pitch the vision of a project, and explain to council members at length how the project will function and to build confidence that they will execute. Totally separate and aside from the legal requirements of a procurement process. So again, to get 3 pages of really not a lot of information it's just not sufficient. It's not enough.
So we have on our table, I will propose, what I'm hearing is that I don't believe any of the commissioners feel they are in a position today to take a vote on the appropriateness or the approval of a recommended bidder, given that we have not been given sufficient information to really exercise our fiduciary responsibility in selecting what is best for parks. What I might recommend is that, given our interest, as has been stated here today, to publicly discuss and to Commissioner North's comment, how can we get this done? I would recommend that we table this for this meeting and continue to work over the next few days, next few weeks with city administration to come to an understanding of what can be done to enable this park board to be able to make the decision on this boat dock project. Am I reading the consensus, or does somebody else?
No, I would agree, and I would just, reiterate, I believe the park board is unanimous in wanting to see a boat dock on the river. We are all in support of that. So it's just getting there is the key, which is the right way to go.
Are there any objections, commissioners, to tabling this topic with the understanding that we will continue to work with the city manager to try and reach an acceptable approach moving forward, that we can have the information that we would need to make a vote on this project?
Mr. President, I have no objection, but what we are asking sounds specific to this project. And I think it's bigger than that, because we are going to have projects in the future. We need to understand how this process is going to work. What is our role and what is the city's role? So what if in this situation, what if we as the board said, we don't agree with this recommendation for the city? What is the path forward if that is the outcome? So what is the process working against? I thought I knew. Obviously, I do not. So I think that there has to be some clarity on both sides, so we know what we're doing as we move forward. And not just for this project, but for the many projects we anticipate coming forward in the future.
Thank you, and I fully agree. And I want to take the transactional of this project, and even though that is extremely important, to your point, the process and basically the ground rules, so to speak, going forward, I think that is the key issue here. So I agree with you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to insist on last word on this, but I do want to draw a separation between some things we're talking about. One is, I want to be clear that I don't believe that the commissioners in this case have the right to select the contractor, the operator for this project. And we don't have the procurement experience necessarily to do that. But I believe we do have the obligation and the right to evaluate the proposed bidder's ability to execute against the vision of the park board. And that is an important responsibility of this commission, and is, I think, very different than managing or overseeing a procurement process. So I just want to draw that point and recognizing that we have a lot to get through on this, but I do not want to evaluate inclusion. I want someone to evaluate that has the ability and credibility to do so, as well as the financial metrics, understanding the conclusions of those and agreeing with them ultimately.
Thank you. Then without objection, we're going to table this topic and put it on the board meeting in the future. Thank you. I want to express thanks again to those of you that are here and those of you who are on YouTube that have an interest in this project. And we welcome any feedback, any additional input. There is a website and there is an email. Rocky, what is the email for comments that can come to the park board?
I can chime in if you want.
Cincy.parks@cincinnati-oh.gov.
Okay. Hopefully you got that. Thank you very much. And thank you again for your input and your interest in this issue. Our next agenda item is the sale of property related to the Hollister Recreation Area. We do have one speaker. Mr. Dan Schimberg has asked to speak, so I'll turn the 2 minutes over to you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much. My name is Dan Schimberg, and I'm here really to make sure that there's a representative here from the partnership of Uptown Rental Properties and North American Properties that submitted an RFP to the city for the purchase of the property that in February, this park board instructed the city to put a public or to proceed with the sale of this property. I want to reiterate, as a major stakeholder in the area of this piece of property, that the part of the motivation of selling this property was to seek ultimate improvement of this area, and the blight and the encampments and the drugs and the crime and the calls for service have remained steady or increased since the February time. And so as you evaluate our proposal, I want to let you know that time has ticked by, and there's a really great opportunity here to move forward and try to improve Inwood Park and continue its incredible trajectory that we have seen even over the last 3, 4, 5 years. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Dan. I as an intro to this topic, I just want to say that I appreciate the input that we have gotten from you. I appreciate the presentation that you did to us. I appreciate the information. I will point out that, again, this goes to process. And I think the process that to date we have used on this issue is the way it should be, where you are able to come to us, give us the vision. You did submit to us your proposal, so it was shared with this commission, this board. I would mention, though, that we have been informed by the city manager and the procurement department that we were not allowed to see your proposal. And in fact, the city asked us to pull your proposal that was a public document from our packet so that it was not on the public. So again, even though personally, I think your proposal is a great proposal. I think it is a good proposal for parks. My concern is, once again, as we discussed in the prior topic, that we are now setting a precedent where we are being told that we need to make decisions based on the recommendation of a panel versus being given full information about the project itself. So I personally am very concerned about taking action on this proposal until we have clarity, as we talked about in the previous topic, clarity as to what is the process, what is the information going forward that the park board will be able to see to make an informed decision. So again, I'll open it up to any other questions that other commissioners would have, and I've got one more after that.
President Getz. I think that the proposals for what were going to be constructed at this site were requested. I requested them, by the way, for personal interest in the next phase of development in the uptown area. That said, I have witnessed firsthand 20+ years of development by uptown. Exceptional work by this group and exceptional work by the team that you've assembled. And I have absolutely zero concern about the future of this site, only excitement for what you will develop there and the promise that it brings, particularly for Inwood Park, which has been neglected for, decades. So I am very excited about the opportunity for this sale and look forward and expect us to work together on continued improvements in Inwood Park.
Super.
Yes, Commissioner Jones.
I just wanted to echo those comments. I am excited about what's happening in Inwood Park. And this proposal that I think we saw months ago sounded like the next step in that improvement process. There was one thing that I asked about in February that I am still very curious about today. So we're not acting on this today, but I just want to put my question out there again. Even though that park was in need of upgrading, one of the areas that I understood was highly used was a basketball court that kids could walk there and they could play basketball there. And the question that I asked at the time, since that would no longer be available, is that going to be relocated so that those kids would have access? And I don't know that. So, and I wasn't able to determine that from what I saw. So that was the question that I had. And I have that discussion, but I put the question out.
I would be happy to answer that for the commissioners, as we established in the previous discussion, to not interact with the respondent on behalf of the proposal. We have certainly established our relationship with the Cincinnati Recreation Commission on this topic. We've discussed everything from the proceeds of sales, portions going to the Cincinnati Recreation Commission for the purposes of reconstructing a basketball court. And one of the discussions that we have not had, and I feel that it is our responsibility to have with CRC, is where in Mount Auburn, specifically if and where a basketball court can be reconstructed in Inwood Park. And I feel that that's our personal responsibility to have that discussion with CRC. And I look forward to that discussion. But as you have stated,
I think this is a great proposal. I think it's a great deal. I only think that because I have been allowed to see the information, we've had an opportunity to interact with you. Same way, in this case, the Director of Parks has been able to see the proposal, has been able to interact with the bidder. My understanding is that going forward, when there's bids like this, and we have been told that this is not how it should be working going forward. And that is what I object to. And so from that standpoint, I hate to set a precedent and approve a project that I think is great. And I only know it's great because of having, according to the city, received information that I should not have received?
President Getz, may I please address the commission about some of the details of the award recommendation as we took just a moment to do that?
Sure.
I will just state very briefly that when the commissioners approved advancing with this project, there were some very high guidelines that the commissioners set. They wanted to see a respondent who was willing to pay for the entire appraised value of the land. They wanted to see a respondent that was willing to pay for the total value of the trees, and a respondent who was willing to contribute to the overall maintenance. And as you have in front of you today with the recommendation, I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that the respondent in this case has met those basic criteria, which were itself very lofty and high criteria for this project.
And I fully agree and am very thankful. And again, I think it's a great deal. I would ask the director, would you have been able to give us that same statement had you not seen the proposal that was presented by the bidder?
I believe my answer is no. It's conflated in my mind just a little bit because I saw the proposal very early on. But I did sign the recommendation prior to seeing the proposal, and I regret that I cannot offer you what my thought process at that moment was. But it certainly was more helpful having seen the proposal.
Thank you. That's what I would expect.
All right, I would only state that I don't understand the new rules at all. And I feel as a commissioner that I have been gagged. And why do I bother to even sit here if every decision is being made by the city manager, the way that we can now do business? I wish somebody, whether it's Bobby, whoever in procurement, could define for us what the new rules are, how they came to be, because they're certainly were not part of the process when we signed our MOU several years back.
And I'm not sure that we still have Ms. Hageman on here. She's not on the call anymore. Let me state for the record that Commissioner Lindner and I have met directly with the city manager on 2 occasions, and we have asked specifically for that. We have asked for in writing, what is the new process that's being put into place for our projects? We were told that the law that has been referenced to us in our meetings was the municipal code section 321 is what was told to us. I did do some research on section 321, and I'll just mention that section 321.17 dealing with the procurement of supply services and construction in excess of $250,000. It says in section A, the city purchasing agent may make any contract to purchase supplies, services, or construction with additional approval of the city manager or board or commission on whose behalf the contract is made. In section 321-73, which is labeled right to request information, it says the city manager, city purchasing agent, board or commission may request information needed to determine the lowest and best bid or the most advantageous proposal. So having read that, I'm very confused with the process, and I'm very, as Commissioner Thomas said, or as you said, I don't know what the rules are now, and I'm not sure what the ordinance or the laws are that go against these section of the municipal code. Are there any other, the other thing is related to process, and I'll just, for full disclosure here, when this proposal was brought to us back in February, At that point in time, we were told that the bidder had received from the solicitor's office a determination that this bid could be granted as a direct award. That was what was presented to us back in February. This also now, as you know, has changed. And the city has now determined that, and I believe it was back in May, the city determined that no, this should go out for bid. And that's why the current bidder was required to put in a new bid on the purchase of this property. So again, it goes back to what is the process? Why are things changing midstream? Why do we not have any information? I'll ask one question that seems to sum it up for me. How much is the park board being paid for the purchase of this property? I looked through all of our documentation and I see nowhere where it states how much the park board is being paid for the sale of our property. Yet we are being asked today to approve the sale of the property.
I am President Getz. I currently do not have any documentation from the legal department. It's the real estate portion of our law department. I do not have any documentation that states what the appraised value is. What I am aware is that the legal department has appraised the land and that the respondent has agreed to pay the full appraised value of the land. To your question, I am unable to share with you because I do not have that information, what the appraised value of it is.
Any other comments by commissioners?
Well, I hear you, President Getz. We did receive that figure at some point, or maybe it was just through discussion, not knowing that it was something that we weren't supposed to know. Here is where I am on this. I hear everything that you're saying, and I think we've all said similar things today, that we're not in a position to approve. I mean, if this is a rubber stamping body, then we all have better things to do with our time. But we do need some clarity on what our role is within the charter and in line with procurement. Where I don't want to go is finding ourselves digging in on opposite sides of an issue with anyone in city administration, or any body of city administration, because all that's going to do is take us away from our intention of serving the city and serving the parks. So I would just like to request that the city manager or someone from the city manager's office potentially attend the next board meeting for us to talk at length, or however long it takes for us to come and reach conclusion. That we asked for this the last time that we met, and Kelly sent us the list of 1-hour sessions that are available for training for boards, which I think will serve us well. But because of the inconsistency between the procurement policy and this charter, I think that we have to really dig in here. So I do believe that the city manager's office will work with us on that. And it's just a place where unfortunately we need to spend some time to make sure we get back on track, focus on these projects.
Well, given that, I would like to propose, again, with my apologies to the bidder, I would like to propose that we table this and we'll put a 1 month so that this proposal will go on our agenda for next month. And during that period of time between now and the next meeting, we get some comfort or understanding of what the process is going to be going forward. So I would like to propose that. Is there opposition to or disagreement with tabling this for 1 month?
I would like to proceed with the vote on this. I think it is unfair for this bidder, there is one bidder here, to continue to wait on us working through our challenges on procurement with the city manager's office. It's just, this is exactly what we're trying to avoid. So I would propose that we proceed.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I am in the same place with the, and especially since I hear the problems that we are experiencing in this part are continuing. And the longer we delay, the more the problems will exist. My only hesitation to taking a vote on this today is, I think that's what we did on the vote doc in December, November of last year. And then we ended up where we are today. So that's my hesitation in that we just, it could be phenomenal.
And I do respect your position, Commissioner North. And again, I just believe that we will be setting a precedent. So unfortunately, I would like to move that we table this. I move that we table this for 1 month. And do I have a second on that?
I say,
We have can I have a voice? We'll do a voice vote first. Those in favor of tabling for 1 month, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Thank you. We will put this agenda item on the agenda for next month. And I want to express again, thank you to Mr. Jimberg and for being here today. And I want to express gratitude for the process that we have gone through, whether it was legal or not. But I think it was exactly the way it should work. And it's a collaborative and it's full disclosure and it looks like an incredible project for Inwood and for Mount Auburn. So thank you for being here, and we will, I'll commit that we will address this next month. Okay, we'll move on now to action item C. We have Mary, you listed here. Can you help us walk through this, please?
Yes, President Getz. Before you today are 2 agreements for your consideration that meet the threshold for your approval set in the approval and advice requirements. Cindy is on the call. She will give a brief description of each of the agreements before you, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you.
Good morning. There's 2 items for you to approve this morning. The first one is an agreement on the Otto Armleder Memorial Park. The Armleder Memorial Park is owned by the city of Cincinnati, and it's operated by CRC and by Great Parks. There's been an agreement in place. It expired at the end of 2017. And the city's been working with Great Parks to put a new agreement in place. The passive section, which is what is operated by Parks, is what Great Parks has kind of taken on. It includes the dog park area and the bike trail, and also where the river is, where the river access is. So this new agreement will not, it can be extended by 5-year terms as long as all the parties agree. So we are just looking for approval to enter into this continuation of an agreement. And Commissioner Getz, I don't know if you want to vote on both of these items together, or if you wanted to take a vote on this and then move on to the next item.
Let's ask, is there questions regarding the Great Parks Armleder proposal in front of us?
Are there any changes to the terms?
No.
Okay. Cindy, one of the terms is related to reporting that Great Parks shall submit an annual operating report to the board of the park board director. Is that being done today?
I'm sorry, did you ask me if that's what's happening currently?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I don't know where that report would go to.
I am not able to recall either. And our CFO is currently not with us at the moment. So we will definitely ensure that if we are not receiving that, then we can receive that.
I just personally, I am in full support of this. I think Great Parks does a great service for us at both of the parks that they are managing for us. I would strongly recommend that we do get that reporting on an annual basis. Let's do a quick vote on this one, unless there's other questions. If not, I'll address a motion.
So move.
We have a motion to accept the recommendation of staff to renew this contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. That's unanimously approved. Thank you, Cindy. And your next one?
The next one is entering into an MOU with MSD. MSD needs to replace an existing sewer stormwater line that's on park property. It's a piece of property that's adjacent to Victory Parkway. We've met with Division of Natural Resources to take a look at the 18-inch line that they need to replace. MSD is working with Department of Natural Resources on some of the details that will go out for tree protection. It's a project that needs to take place to alleviate some issues that residents upstream are having with their sewer and backup issues they're having.
Great. And Cindy, this, if I'm not mistaken, this area is what I'll say above. I'm having a hard time visualizing if it's north or south, but above where the Stadium and Rec Center is at Xavier. Is that correct?
Hold on one second. Let me pull out a quick sketch.
I think it's just there's nothing there. It's just parkland.
That's correct. Yeah. It's
Okay.
it's the sewer was actually originally built in 1895. And this is kind of interesting. We were looking at some of the older drawings, and in this area where this sewer line is being replaced, there used to be a lawn, like a bowling lawn area. And there were some stormwater structures we didn't even know about. It was because I used to use this as a bowling area back in 1895. It's I'm trying to find the next Ledgewood Drive is the street that's just north of it. It's kind of between Victory Parkway and Winding Way, if that helps at all, kind of
That helps.
situate.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Cindy on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
And second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the staff recommendation to approve this MOU. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, Cindy. It unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Craig, you're next on the list, it looks like, for grant application.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Today, requesting approval to apply and accept a grant of $50,000 from the Parks Foundation. The Parks Foundation is receiving the $50,000 from Lee Alt Carter and Shannon Kelly Carter for the construction of Carter's Grove Bird Sanctuary. This donation meets the minimum financial commitment for naming rights. And for more information about Lee and Shannon Carter, please review the board report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I would just say this is a wonderful example of a private-public partnership in the care and feeding of the Cincinnati city parks. The other thing I would want to sort of mention here is to remind people that the county parks are separated from the city parks. And it's important when you're voting for the county levy that you understand this, and that you understand that the city parks do not get much, if anything, from this levy. There are two parks that they help us maintain. from this levy, for which we are eternally grateful. But I think these are the public things that need to be understood. Thank you.
I'll just add, with relation to the Carters, Lee Carter was chair of our investment finance committee for a number of years. I think the love of parks and the dedication to parks that both Lee and both Carters and Shannon have shown is incredible. I am fully supportive of, number one, grateful for their interest in providing this gift to Cincinnati Parks, and fully supportive of putting their names as a honor, not only for their contribution in money, but their contribution in time and energy and dedication to parks. Any other? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the receipt of the grant, and also this can serve as approval of the naming of the area as Carter's Grove and Bird Sanctuary. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, Craig. It's unanimously approved.
Thank you.
So next we'll go to open commissioner discussion. Opportunity for commissioners to bring topics or questions forward at this point in time. So I'll open to any commissioner.
I'm missing the police report. There was no police report?
We have decided to do the police reports on a quarterly basis.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
We decided to do the police reports on a quarterly basis, so they will be back in October.
Okay, I'm sorry that I didn't remember that. But as a result of that, I need to report there's a problem at Eden Park. No surprise. I thought that the speed bumps had helped the issue at Twin Lakes and so forth, but I have heard from a citizen that this is not the case. That people are parking on the sidewalks, that the trash is unbelievably bad up there, that the folks that are being prohibited from walking to that area and using that part of the park because of the way it's being managed. This person also said that she and another citizen had called the police to report this problem and this illegal parking. And they were, in essence, blown off. So I think that's very distressing and very disturbing. And we still, commissioners, have a problem at Eden Park that has not been properly addressed and taken care of. Thank you.
I'll make a comment on that. I appreciate the work that's been done on the speed bumps. I do think I'm full agreement with you that the speed bumps did not address the illegal parking, the trash issue. All of those things I think still remain a problem. I do think that the speed bumps have been effective with the motorcycles and with the cars that use that as a loop all the time. I personally heard also from somebody that lives in the overlook across the street that the noise issue has been improved, and giving credit to the speed bumps that were installed. So I want to say that that has worked, and I don't disagree that we have a problem not only in Eden Park, but in many of our parks with cars pulling up close to playgrounds, close to pavilions. It's an ongoing issue that I personally don't know the resolution and would look to park staff to help us with what we can do on those issues.
We greatly appreciate that comment and those comments from the commissioners. Without getting into too much detail, this is also a recognized issue from staff, and they have already begun conversations about environmental changes to try and prohibit the ability for cars to access green space. I believe we have implemented that in 1 or 2 locations so far, but as you stated, the problem, it does exist system-wide. And so we are continuing to look at those environmental solutions to prevent that.
And I think this is an important enough discussion or issue that if we could put this on our agenda for next month, that that staff present to us what are these types of issues that you're encountering, especially with a focus on the ongoing issues at Eden Park, and then what the steps are that you're taking to address those.
Very good. We'd be happy to do that. We will share with you both our approaches and where there have been successes and any outstanding problems that we are struggling to solve.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments or questions?
I have a question, maybe we're so into this. The capital project sunsetting, where this year, it's so small. What's in here? You just said the sum total of what's the impact of this report? I presume it says that we've been allocated funds that we haven't spent, now we have to give back. And what's the magnitude?
Give it a shot, Greg.
Commissioner North, for that report, that is a yearly report that we provide to budget evaluation for items that for some reason we have not met the spending criteria, and we provide an explanation of why we have not met that criteria so we can still withhold those dollars, have those dollars in our coffers. We are not losing those dollars, we just have to provide an explanation.
So for clarity, that's the important point of this report. Were any of these deemed by the city to be grounds for sunsetting, that the money was taken back from these accounts in the park?
For those projects, we should not we should not lose any of those dollars.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have, one question I had was updates on, do we have an update on where we stand with lot 28? Director.
Unfortunately, we do not. Staff have not been involved in this discussion. What we are aware of is that the city and the county are in negotiations regarding ownership, development, maintenance of lot 28. Previously, our discussions with the county centered around the development of that lot to provide storage space underneath the lot. This was to answer for a deficit in the amount of storage space that the county owed us. But at this time, staff have not been involved in those discussions. Any updates, I believe, would need to come from the city. We are consulted where needed. I just fielded a call the other day about the storage space itself from a city law, where we in turn responded that the storage is still a critical issue for us and a critical concern for us. The exact destination is not. So our involvement in lot 28 and any updates that I am able to provide to you are minimal to none.
Are you aware, have final documents on lot 23 been signed and the property deeded over to the city?
As of yesterday, I can say effectively that final paperwork had not been signed or submitted.
Okay. And the Reading Road sale of property, can you give us a status report? Is that transaction signed?
So one of the approvals that you made in our capital budget previously was to expend resources from our 980 fund to determine what the cost of relocation was going to be for us. We are aware that the sale of the land that we will receive, the financial value for the sale of the land, will not meet our financial needs for relocation. I have personally been in discussion with the city manager's office regarding the request for the full sale price of our property, the full sale price of the additional city parcel, which is being sold, and whatever the delta there would be in terms of fully financing the renovation. That design work that I had previously referenced will be concluding by September 30th of this month. We will then know what the cost of relocation is. The city manager's office is expecting that dollar amount from me no later than October 1st. And then they will know the sum or the difference of what is still required. No promises have been made to parks in terms of financing that gap. However, it was continued to be stressed that when this board initially approved the sale of property, that one of the conditions was that the parks be made whole.
Great, thank you. Any other?
Yeah, just a question on that same project timing of that. We got to have this done by end of 22. Is that correct?
So this has changed. When you approved the sale, it was conditioned on a 21-month vacation from whenever the contract would be signed. The CDC has reapproached the city with a request for vacation on December 31, 22, even though those paperwork that have not been signed yet. I have had active discussions with our staff and the stance that we are taking as a staff in our discussions with the city manager's office is that if that financial guarantee is made to make us whole, we will figure out how to stage our staff for a period of 3 to 6 months that it would take us to complete renovation. So that is a commitment of the park staff that we would determine how to temporarily stage those individuals. Because even as the timeline exists today, they would not be ready to move in on December 31st.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Carol, we'll turn it back to staff comments.
Good morning. Just a couple things. One is to let you know that September 25th is National Public Lands Day, which is the largest single-day volunteer effort that we have, and it's a very busy one for us. We've got 16 events and 12 different parks. Those include Hoffner, Juergens, Mount Airy, La Boida, Mount Echo, Mount Storm, Eden, Hauk, Mount Woods, all Bettman, California. So they're spread throughout. There are opportunities for folks to volunteer. Anyone interested should sign up on our website, and we'd love to have them. It's a very successful weekend for us, and it times well with the Great Outdoor Weekend, which is the same weekend. So we've got some special events also planned throughout our parks. People can find out about those on the website. We've got the Story Time with the Naturalist program that's been very successful. Collaboration with Hamilton County Public Library. The Cincinnati's first International Children's Day Festival is going to be taking place in Burnett Woods. That's an event in conjunction with Cincinnati USA sister cities. So that should be a lot of fun. We're very proud to have that. And then we've got events like the California Woods Creek Crawl and others if people are interested. So we're looking forward to that. Also, you've been invited, but just so everyone's aware, at 10 a.m. on October 9th, as part of the 4th annual Ez Fest celebration in the West End of Laurel Park. We'll have the official groundbreaking for the Ez statue, the Ezra Charles statue in Plaza. which is happening thanks to our friends at the Parks Foundation and their partners. We look forward to seeing you there if you're able to make it. Finally, the relief program is off to a great start. You may recall priority registration began earlier in September for 2 weeks. Really proud to say that in those, and the idea was we have, I believe it's 17 neighborhoods we've identified as priority because they've got lower than 40% tree canopy. Within the first 2 weeks, only folks in those communities were able to reserve trees. And so in that 2-week period, we were able to register 563 trees just in this area. So we're really happy to see that 1,750 trees in total are available, thanks to our partners at the Parks Foundation, Mad Tree Brewing, and Macy's. Registration is still open for folks. General registration started on September 4th. As of yesterday afternoon, we've got 305. We had 305 trees left. So last year, we set a record with 824 trees. We more than doubled the goal this year to 1,750, and we're 305 away. So, so we're really proud of that. And also, as we've discussed, Commissioner Thomas, it's an indication that our targeted efforts to really go at those neighborhoods through the CPACs, the community councils, next door, et cetera, were successful. So we're really happy to see that and glad to have your support the program. I have to talk about what the goal should be for next year, given the success. Crystal's not here, so we can't put her on the spot.
Thank you.
Yes.
How do we manage our website? Like, who's responsible for the day-to-day maintenance? Are we setting guidelines annually? So we do that in a couple of years. It's pretty rough. Let's be clear.
I agree. It's very interesting timing. So the website is currently handled by my shop, our area. We handle the day-to-day updates of it. And right now, we're going through a process to migrate that site and completely overhaul and update that website. We're working through most of the city departments house their website on the city's mainframe. Historically, Parks has not done that. It was built on a separate site that we pay an outside vendor to house. So we take care of the content, but they house the structure of the site. And so right now, we're building a test site that we hope to have migrated within the next 3 months or so. It'll become part of the city's. As we're doing that, we're reorganizing the site. We're cleaning up a lot of the information. It will have new features like interactive maps for each of our park pages. It's going to have an interactive calendar. So you can actually go in and query a park like Burnett Woods. See, these are all the events happening at Burnett Woods that are on the calendar, and other features as well. So, so we agree, and we're making some major improvements to that in the next few months.
Commissioners, I'd like to add on to Mr. Merz's comments. At the last board meeting, I was able to briefly inform you that Mr. Stephen Schuckman had submitted his intent to retire, and we did not have an opportunity to speak about that in length. So today I would like to just take a moment and continue that recognition of the service of Mr. Stephen Schuckman, whose retirement will be effective October 1st. Mr. Schuckman served the city for 42 years, serving first 10 years in the city's Department of Planning, as well as then moving over to the parks system for 32 years, where he finally served as the division manager for the planning and design. Mr. Schuckman was instrumental in every major project for parks for the last 3 decades, including the design and construction of our renowned Riverfront Park, the renovation of Washington and Ziegler Parks, the restoration of the 1904 Eden Park gazebo and Mount Storm's 1850 Temple of Love, the Kyle Plush Pavilion in Westwood Town Hall, to name a few. He directed both the development of the 1992 and the 2007 Parks Master Plans. Many of his projects have won design awards, including a National Design Award from NRPA for Smale Riverfront Park, an award for Washington Park, Friendship Park, and an award from the Ohio Society of Landscape Architects for the entire Cincinnati park system. On behalf of the staff of the Cincinnati Park Board, we do look forward to continuing the vision of this department, which will be built on the foundation that he helped achieve.
Thank you, Kara. I want to state on behalf of the board our deepest gratitude to Mr. Schuckman for his years of service. And as you mentioned, the great contribution and impact that he has made on Cincinnati parks. And we will just wish him all the best in his retirement years and good health and happiness and lots of good times in retirement. So thank you very much. And please share that that write-up that you have with your staff as well. Thank you. Any other things from the staff?
Nope, that concludes our contribution.
We have again, I didn't see this, we not have any more commissioner comments. Any comments you haven't made yet that would you like to make? Okay. All right. I'll note that our next regular meeting date is October 21. We're here today because it's a bigger space and because of construction going on at the administrative center. So we'll make a decision before October if the meeting will be back here or in Eden Park. If there's nothing more to come before us, I'd like to adjourn this meeting and appreciate the time and energy that all of you have given us and to staff as well. Thank you. We're adjourned.